Hello, Internet! This is Harley Stroh of Goodman Games with my MC and dear friend Beast Mode.
Hi, hi, hi.
He also knows Brendan LaSalle. And tonight we are going to do an AMA for any questions you may or may not have. And if nobody shows up, that's sweet. Brendan and I are just going to hang out and chat for an hour.
It's going to be fantastic. We were going to do this anyway, whether or not y'all came. That's a perfect.
Well, let's.
Sorry, I'm sure my Twitch.
Yeah, you got his number. Give him a call. Lakes now is now pouring it on.
Yeah. So I'm trying to turn my Twitch volume down
That's all good, my friend. That's fantastic.
so I can read the question.
Oh. Mr. Bolam, good to see you, sir. Thanks for showing up. How you been?
Hello. Hey, how you doing?
I think you might have a reverb.
Yeah, I got to close Twitch. I can't. I'm getting it.
It's all good, my friend.
Sorry,
You can turn the volume off there too, though, if you want it.
I couldn't figure it wasn't.
It's all good. It's actually on the screen in the lower right hand side, but that's okay. So, it's awesome. It's awesome. So Brendan LaSalle, once
Yes,
upon a
sir.
time, we did a retreat in California, and we went
Yes.
to these are the questions I didn't get to answer during your AMA because I was home with a sick family. And you made eggs for everybody. Like, that was your go-to thing. We went around,
Yeah.
like, everybody volunteered. Like, some people were going to buy, like, really fancy, awesome dinners. And you volunteered to make eggs. What's your secret for making eggs? How is it that you happen to know so much about making eggs?
You know, it's been like it's oddly I'm allergic to eggs, but yet it's my signature dish to make for other people. So the secret is to it's high heat, do it fast. I think it's like the key to it is just put it up way higher than it says to, and then just do it like don't stop moving over the heat. Keep your hand in. Such scramble, omelet. I make eggs for my wife a lot. She's
Nice.
a fan of mine. Oh.
Oh.
All right, so people are starting to show up first, but I had a couple questions first because I haven't talked to you. Start off. Tell us about the DCC Day adventures.
Oh, all right. Well, so we're doing. I did two. I can't speak for the third one, but I did. Shadow of the Beakman, which is a project that Joseph commissioned. That it was supposed to be like kind of like a clean, straightforward DCC adventure. So there was going to be fun monsters to fight. It was going to do everything it said on the tin without like Harley making it more overly complicated than it needed to be. So there was going to be a puzzle. There was going to be monsters to fight. There was going to be like a cool magic thing to discover and a place to explore that anybody could run at DCC Day when it was still going to be like a live event that anybody could run, like pick up, run in 4 hours, and feel like they could show up, they could grab Shadow of the Beakman, they could walk out of the store and run it. And then I did the heist, which is my second Lakemar adventure, which is totally fun because it was which was the oh gosh, I can't even remember. Maybe the channel people can. What was the adventure we did where like there's like it's all the spiders. The Jewel of the Delton Stardust. That's the one. And where Doug did that beautiful handout. And so it's this handout depicting a merchant's house that you guys are going to rob. And everything in that handout is true. And so if there's a stained glass window up on the third floor, and there's windows on the first floor, and a door here, and a garden back there, and that handout is like the key to the entire adventure. It's like and then there's like the sewer grate, and all of that's true. Like everything you see, you can interact with it in terms of like, oh well, the sewers aren't just in the illustration, and they're not just there for like, oh, cool, we drew a sewer. It's like the sewers are there because the guys can pop off the sewer grate and drop down. And what did they discover there? And how does that help them get into the house? and then there's the window on the third floor that's a stained glass. Well, that's kind of weird. What happens if we go in that? And anyways, and so so the heist was in that same vein where everything, it's an opportunity for those adventures, where I think I love, that Doug loves, where like, you're pretending you're a criminal, like, the PCs can come in, they can perform the heist in any number of ways. They're only limited by the amount of time that they have to pull off the heist. So they wake up, they find out, that this pleasure manse is being open, for one night and one night only. How are they going to get in? So they have like 8 hours to plan, 3 hours to make that plan happen, and then that last hour to get inside and deal with any complications as everything goes awry. So those are the two adventures I did for DCC Day. I'm totally stoked on both of them. Like Stefan did a ton of the art, and they all come with like I don't know. They were all created prior to like our lockout, but they were all kind of prepped unintentionally, for tokens and virtual nonsense, whatever. But so it's kind of cool. They should both be able to run pretty well.
Yeah. Estimate two of the new adventures of the new DCC Online Millennium as we kick off our new, the next phase of Goodman Games.
Well, it was cool to get them done on time. I'm so slow. Like, these was like the first ones that I actually completed with some sort of alacrity, and got them turned in, and it was cool.
Good for you.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I mean, so on that, have you had a problem getting adventures in on time in the past?
Oh, I'm miserable, dude. I'm so slow. I my code name being, one more week. Unfortunately, that's uttered like 3 or 4 times in the course of me trying to get something into Joseph. And the piece of it is like, I remember when I was a little kid, and I will succumb to this someday. So if you guys are listening, there will come a day when Harley is a feeble writer, and he's just rehashing old stuff that he's done before, and come to me and say, Harley, you've had it, you're done. I remember being maybe 13. It was 4th grade, so it was younger than that, maybe 11 or 12. But walking into Toys R Us, right? And you walk into Toys R Us, and as soon as you walk in, on your left-hand side, there's just vast stacks of bookshelves, like racks back, every TSR product I could imagine. I had never heard of in my life, and I would just go there, and you'd hold them in the cellophane, and they're just beautiful, right? And I remember, I think it was Isle of the Ape and another one that Gydax did. They both had giant apes as foes, and I was just like, oh, I was a crushed little 4th grader. Man, I've read this before. I know this dude has done this, and so, anyways, the reason I'm so slow is I'm trying to avoid that. I'm trying to really create an adventure that I feel is good enough for somebody to publish, and so it's just that monster kind of hanging on the back of my head saying, no, it's not good enough. No, it's not good enough. No, you need more. The word count's there. It always comes in over word count. But is it good enough yet? Is it good enough yet? And even when I turn it in now, it's always it misses that platonic ideal that you have kind of in your head when you start to imagine an adventure. I bet you get this too. You're like, oh, this is so cool. It's going to capture this, and this. And then you sit down there with your 64 pages or whatever, and you're like, oh man, it just came up short. And so it's always kind of questing after that excitement moment. I can't hear you, bro. I think you might have muted yourself.
Sorry, yeah. Okay, well, I have to say that the results of your work absolutely speak for themselves. And, one of my favorite of all time adventure sessions was us going through the original Legacy of the Savage Kings in the old 3.0.
Oh, yeah. That was my very first one, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I did a big journal of that. It's actually still up on the Goodman forums. I was so which I haven't done very often, but it was my friend Dwayne ran it. It was absolutely thrilling. We had to run so many times. We would get beat, run away. It's such a well layered adventure, and the ending is so exciting. There with the 4 statues and the lizard guy. It was just an absolutely thrilling adventure. Really, one of my all time favorite experiences.
Right on.
Gabe. Oh yeah.
Well, thank you. Well, here let's go to some of these cool people that took their time out on a Friday to show up.
Ask some questions.
Jack Dawkins, I'd love to hear about your first RPG experience and how it hooked you into this wonderful hobby of ours. Thank you, Jack. So you guys, if you guys own the original Adventures Reincarnated, the Caves of Chaos one, you know this one already, so I apologize. But when I was 8, I had a babysitter, a male babysitter, that came over and he brought the Moldvay box set, and he ran Dungeons and Dragons for me and my little brother. And so my brother, he must have been 6 and a half. And we played Keep on the Borderlands, which I thought was like Keep on the Borderlands, like you're not supposed to walk off the Borderlands somehow, and so you have that 8.5 by 11 map, and whatever you do, don't leave it. But we went into the Caves of Chaos, and we went into the Kobold Caves, walked in, took the immediate right, went about 20 feet, and boom, my character drops down the pit. There's the giant rats at the bottom, consumes my character, and I die. And I was hooked. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And, the babysitting was up, and he went home. And I was like, oh my God, we got to have this guy back. We got to, please, Mom, Dad, go on another date night. I want to play Dungeons and Dragons again. And, but it was a satanic panic, right? And so his family, being religious, they found out that they found out about Dungeons and Dragons, that it was evil. And so they made him get rid of all his stuff. And I was begging him, run Dungeons and Dragons for us again. He's like, no, I got to get rid of it. My mom told me, I have to throw it away. And so we met in this abandoned lot behind his house. It was a dirt bike track. We had built jumps and whatnot. We would race around it. But and he handed that box set off to me, and it blew my mind. All of a sudden, all these things, it felt so important at the time, right? Because it was forbidden by adults, and now it was being entrusted to me. It was the Necronomicon had been handed off, and now I was going to bring it home and hide it under my bed because I'd been told it was evil and satanic, but it was mine now, and all this stuff that I was so excited about. Now that could be me, and so I had the basic set, and then I ran an adventure for my father, my mother, my brother. My parents were probably trying to figure out if it was satanic, and they learned quickly that it wasn't. But and that was it. And then I've been literally running adventures ever since. I think probably the last time I played an adventure was probably with you at Gen Con a few years back. Yeah.
No kidding, really?
Yeah.
That long ago?
There is a copy machine behind me. If you guys saw, if you guys watched my first game at Cyclops Con, it was horrible lag, miserable lag. That's because I was at home. I had the Ethernet plugged in, but for whatever reason, we live in this little dead spot in Carbondale, and so I went into the office tonight. You'll see a copier machine, a calendar behind me. We have a little hand laminator, but at least the internet is slightly more solid than what we would have at home. So, all right, Brendan, what else you got for me, man?
Okay, so we also haven't talked about to me what the real big thing coming up on the horizon, which is, of course, Music of the Spheres.
Yes, sir. Yeah. It's 4 years out now that Joseph and I first spoke about it. I think I might have given you, I don't know, the original map, or I don't know. We had it for.
Can I show that?
Yeah.
Here, it's here in my office. Hold up. All right, I get off the wall. So this is seriously my all-time favorite piece of convention swag. So this is a mock-up map. Seriously, this is the original map for Music of the Spheres, and he used it for his What's New with Goodman Games. Can you see the spinning bits there? All your stage directions are on top.
That is hilarious.
Isn't this killer?
Okay, hold on. All right. Okay, so check this. All right. So that at some point.
There's the spinners. Oh, nice.
Became this, right? And so, yeah. All right, if you're playing at home, so you have your center disc which you can spin, and each of the side discs that can spin and reveal different locations on the map. But I don't know if you guys can see this, but this is the quality. I scanned this and I gave it to Doug, right? That poor soul, because it's literally pinned with brads. There's no science behind this, it's me tracing I got a tiny plug-in light board at home, hoping that the circles line up. But guys, I gotta hold on. Oh, please make this work. I want to show you this. Okay, so Doug takes that. So Doug takes what Brendan has, this iteration, which is scanned and is junk. And this is one of the reasons why DCC 100 is so rad. He pours just like his soul into making the map. Not only that it physically works, which is insane, right? Because that's just obnoxious, but like it actually looks good and feels good and communicates it. Oh, please make this work. I mean, this is why Doug knows the DCC line like infinitely better than the rest of us. And like every adventure he actually cares about. I mean, not which isn't to say we don't care about our adventures, but I love my adventures. I can't say that I've read every X-Crawl adventure, but then Doug, who does the art for these things, like it's just beautiful. Like it's a physical artifact that is a work of art that is infinite. And like this is what I was talking about earlier, right? When you write an adventure and you have that platonic idea in your mind, like, oh my God, I want it to be this. And then Doug takes it and comes back and it's like, oh, that's the satisfaction. Like it's so much better than I had hoped for, than I could have imagined. And that's what makes me happiest. When I get to there was a point in time where I was like, oh my God, like please, like all these other artists are doing awesome work, but in my heart of hearts, when I see a DCC map, and it's been this way since Sailors, like I want it to be Doug's artwork, which is just, I don't know, just me being a jerk. All right, Brendan, what else we got here? Sleepy Fingers. Harley, what's the most important thing for you in refining something you've written? Okay. I think, and you guys probably know all this, but like I'm a huge fan of Frazetta art, especially like his weird kind of placeless ones where it's just a bunch of orcs with great butts like walking through a wasteland, and they all have helmets on and nothing else but clubs, and it's always about kind of trying to refine the feeling of an adventure to where the goal is my goal, and it's wrong. I would like to hear what Brendan has to say. My goal is like if between the cover art and the interior art and the maps, like what Doug can create, if my writing can help a judge fall in love with an adventure, then when the judge takes that adventure and brings it to his or her table and runs it for their players, if the judge is in love with it, the game's gonna rock, right? Like I could write something brilliant and Doug could make it awesome. And if we can't get the judge to fall in love with it, if he or she can't deliver a good game, then it's just going to fall flat, right? But I mean, so maybe more than anything else, if my hope is to kind of like share something I'm passionate about, get a judge to fall in love with that too. Together, that judge and I, with everybody, all the artists, like supporting that vision. If we can deliver that to the judge's table, boom, then it's a win, right? Because then we have 8 players that just had an awesome time, and I bet like the adventure would be nothing like what I would run it, right? But it's these brilliant judges that come in and they leave their own imprimatur, I can't say that word, on the adventure, and then all of a sudden it's theirs, and then like you hear all the stories about people running Sailors, and Doug's reverse Sailors and Wayne Snyder, and then then there was like an insect Sailors where you're all crawling through MCC land, and all those are so much cooler than I ever could have come up with, and it's just because some judge somewhere fell in love with it, gave it his or her like passion, his or her creative energy, poured that into the adventure, boom, and then it comes alive, right? Like an adventure is what, 15% of a good game session, maybe not even that. And that's only if like if you say that the art is 95% of a good adventure. It's a seed, watered by the art that the judge falls in love with, delivers it to a bunch of players that are passionate about engaging with these things, and keeping themselves alive. The judge spins off all that creative energy, and like by the time it's done, like you should scratch out Harley Stroh on the cover of any of my adventures you run, because at that point it belongs to you guys. Like it's not some crap I wrote. It's what you guys like created. Anyhow, all right, I love you.
Oh, that was really well put. Beautiful, man. Beautiful. Very cool. All right, you ready for another question? I got a good one here.
Yeah, hit me.
All right, Lex Mandrake, my man, says, "Hey Harley, your box text is fantastically over the top. Where was your inspiration for your writing style?"
Oh, dude. Okay, all right. If if you go, oh, it's so embarrassing. All right, okay, we never should do this again. If you guys go to Caves of Chaos or Keep on the Borderlands, you flip like what 6 pages in when they finally make it past the keep and into Caves of Chaos. It's not even box text, but it's written by Gygax as box text, and like and you're walking up towards the cave, and there's the trees there, and there's ravens, and they all take off at the same time, and it seems like there's bones underneath the trees somewhere, and then it ends with the text, here surely must be the goal which you seek, the Caves of Chaos. And I have plagiarized that like Mad Libs, I don't know how many times during my career, which is embarrassing, but if you'll ever hear like, here surely is the blah 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 you seek, it's like it's stolen from the very first adventure I ever played in, and the first adventure I ever read, and thank goodness it was that, and I don't know, not something else. But so I, as a kid, I was sick all the time, and I had allergies during the summer, which now like just seems like all our everyday life. But all summer long, my parents wouldn't let me go outside because the pollen was so bad, and so I was just like stuck, like indoors all summer long as a child, and all I did was just pour myself into, if it was printed by TSR, I was the guy that I would take my allowance, my $5, I would go buy an adventure, and so I just, my entire childhood was saturated in D&D and TSR, and we lived out in the middle of nowhere, and so my capacity to acquire, it would have been sweet if my vistas could have been opened up a little bit further. Like I couldn't have told you there were other game publishers outside of TSR. Growing up until like probably like Altar Saurian Cyberpunk hit me when like in 7th grade. But so in any writing I ever learned probably came from Gygax and those summers in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade when all I did was just like inhale the Dungeon Master's Guide time and time again.
Fantastic.
Oh, Spawn Root. That's a fun story. Okay, hold on. All right. What's the thing you've learned from Brendan? Hey, Brendan, what's the thing you've learned from Harley? Okay, sweet story. All right, so there I am. And I've moved to the East Coast. I've left Colorado, moved to the East Coast to follow a girl. My gaming group has just imploded. We all graduated from college. People are getting real jobs. I'm the last one left. I follow this girl, and my gaming group is gone. And that was like outside of skateboarding and gaming with these guys, that was all I did. And so all of a sudden that's lost, right? And so my gaming group's gone. And so in my spare time, I start writing up an adventure to send to my friends, because I know he's social. He's going to be able to make friends. He has a gaming group. I'm just going to send him one of my adventures. I'm going to write an adventure, send it to him, and then so that way, like, just like even once removed, I'll have this sensation of running a game for somebody again. Like far be it from Harley to be actually social and like, hey, anybody want to play Dungeons and Dragons? No way. That's too scary. I'm not good at that sort of thing. But so I'm excited about D&D again, right? And so I walk into a game store, a hobby shop in Keene, New Hampshire. It was mostly a train shop. They sold trains, and I see up on the rack, just like 20 years earlier, at TSR. At Toys R Us, I see one of Brendan's adventures. It was DCC 7, I think, right?
Number 10.
10. What was the title? I'm sorry. I can see the Errol Otis cover.
Yeah, the Sunless Garden.
Sunless Garden. And I open it up, and then the sun shone on me. Like I opened this thing up, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Errol Otis, I know that art style. Woo! And like these blue line maps are just like radiated at me, and I was like, oh my God, this is what I wanted to do when I was 14 years old, and like typing up submissions to send to Dragon Magazine, which are all rejected. This is what I wanted to do. Somebody's doing this now? And I was blown away, completely blown away. And so it was based on reading. So I bought it right away, and I went home and I read it. And I was like, oh my God, Goodman Games. Who are these people? So it was based on having purchased Brendan's Adventure that I took this horrible, like word processed thing that I'd been sending off to my friend Alex, and I mailed it into Goodman Games. I'm like, oh, guys, I want to be part of this. I want to be part of the Goodman Games. Like, please, like, you have these mock TSR adventures. TSR is out of business. I want to be a part of this. And that was Legacy of the Savage Kings. That was the first DCC I ever got to write.
Awesome. Okay, so thing I've learned from Harley. How about a couple come to mind, but how about a true reverence for the old school? True reverence for, because we came up in the same period, reading the same adventures and such, and like your enthusiasm for all of those old classical adventures and such absolutely lit me up from an early time. Do you remember when we started that standing ovation at the first innings for Gary Gygax?
I don't, but that sounds like something we would do. Like,
Yeah,
we're probably seated in the back. Yeah.
You stood up, and I got so excited. I stood up, and we were the only ones standing up. We cheered and cheered until the whole room stood up.
Yeah.
That was you. And then
I'm glad.
I was the second guy to that and such. It was an absolutely moving and thrilling moment and such. So it was, I don't know. It's your, I don't know. I try to cultivate enthusiasm like you have just naturally coursing through your blood. So love and beloved.
Thank you. Okay, Arcus Darkus. This is maybe. Are you aware of the love of DCC games in Britain? I am totally ignorant. I've failed to travel much of my like. So I'm a father of 2 kids, 1 5 and 1 6, and like, if I travel at all in the next 10 years, it's going to be thanks to Goodman Games sending me to random places to run games. Like, I think prior to the lockdown, did you guys get over to Great Britain to run games recently?
This is going to be our first year for Jen and Bob going this year.
Yeah. Okay, but then did that get shut down, or did they make it?
No. This was going to the UK Games Expo. It got delayed until August, mid-August. I think.
Okay.
So this is, hopefully they can still make it.
Right. So there's still time to get my passport. Is that what you're saying? Like,
Dude, you absolutely are.
dude, I would love.
You would blow their minds.
No. There'd be
Seriously, you'd be a rock star, total rock star.
Here, great. Harley, what's your most prized RPG or D&D possession? This is so much fun. Okay, everybody, do me a well, it doesn't matter. You all know what like Peril on the Purple Planet cover looks like, right? It's perhaps the most brilliant like cover art ever illustrated because it like doubles as a handout. Like everything Doug illustrated on Peril of the Purple Planet is something like manageable within the game. Check this out. This is so cool. So when Doug does like pre-work, and I don't know if you guys can see this, he'll do it on like I don't know if it's Bristol board or something, but he'll paint it all out by hand and just like almost like palette knife style. And so and for me, for my love of Doug's artwork, like this really appeals to me. Like I would never do away with the actual cover, but I see this and I see kind of the motion and the energy behind it and the original color scheme and like the gestures are still there. Like if you compare this to the Purple Planet, like like here's Shannon, she's still blasting somebody, and here's Kith, coming out just like a wall of Kith, coming crashing down. Here's the robot guy in the back, and here's the handsome beefcake man reaching up to the 2 women and the city of smoke. And okay, so Doug gave me this, but it's kind of like become a thing now, right? Because like he does these works. Like I could never afford like a Doug Kovacs like painting, but when he gifts these wooden board painting things to me, like these are my prized possessions. Like the house catches fire, I'm gonna leave, get the kids out, the wife, the dog, and then the DMG that I've had since forever, whatever. I'm gonna grab Doug's artwork. So this is 7 Pits of Sezercon. And so from the tournament, it's mostly, it says across, those arms raised wide, and there's these people dying below him. But yeah, I don't know, just the energy and passion behind it is just speaks to me. And then here is the most recent one he gave me. He came and visited. I can't remember. Probably this last summer. He was traveling. Oh yeah, it was the 4th of July. Well, no, it was 2 4th of Julys ago. Anyhow, here we go. This is for the music of the spheres is chaos. You think I'd figure it out by now? There we go. All right. And anyways, so these has Doug's handwork on the back. This is art. Yeah. Okay. In case any of us, I don't know. Maybe Doug thinks I'm stupid. Hopefully I'd figure it out. But if not, we know it's art. So those are my most prized RPG possessions. And thank you for asking. I appreciate it. That's awesome.
Gorgeous. Okay, you ready for another one?
Hit me.
All right, Harley. This is from J4CKD4 Kins. I think Jack Dawkins. Harley, what are 3 adventures every judge should run before the quarantine ends?
Oh, that's hard. I had this moment, like yesterday. Like I love my family. I love my family. I love my family. But I also had that sliver of like, man, if I was single, living in a shithole apartment somewhere with decent internet, I could be running a D&D game every single night. like I would you log on, it's 8 o'clock, you made yourself your ramen noodles, and we're gonna play some Dungeon Crawl Classics. And so I guess my answer would be all of them. Run before quarantine is over. I don't want to prescribe. Well, you know what you should do? Here's what you should do. Because the adventures I love may not be the adventures that Brendan loves, and the adventures that Brendan loves, don't take my taste, but take that one adventure that you're like, oh yeah, dude, when all our characters are 5th level and Toby gets out of the army and Susan, finally quits her advertising job and she and Jennifer move back, and like, I'm gonna run this adventure. I've been holding on to this one. No, screw that noise, dude. Like, somebody we know is gonna die tomorrow. The adventures you're supposed to run while quarantine is on are the adventures that you will regret not having run if everything ends 6 months from now. Like, there are so many awesome adventures out there, and I only say this because I'm so guilty of it. Like, I'll get an idea, I'm like, all right, sweet, I'm gonna hold on to this, and I'm gonna build up to this, and then by the time it's like, and then the group's broken down, or everyone's moved away. I would say find that adventure that you're super passionate about. If it's Star Wars, run a sweet Star Wars adventure. If it's something to do with pirates, if it hasn't been written yet, write it. And like, we should all just this is an opportunity to remind ourselves of what we're super passionate about and what got us into gaming, and run those adventures. And yeah, I don't know. That's okay. But yeah, anyways, sorry, Jack. I know it's a lame kind of cop-out excuse. Run Escape from the Purple Planet, just because the monsters in there are kind of cool. Get a hold of me and run a playtest of DCC 100. Because it's complicated.
Hell yeah.
It's not complicated, but but you wrap your brains around it. And so I'd love to hear somebody else be like, oh, Harley, this makes sense and this didn't make sense. And then run a sweet X-Crawl variant that nobody's thought of yet. Brendan, let's okay. If you had 3 adventures to run before the apocalypse, what would they be?
Ooh, I would go back. I would run the G1, G2, G3 one more time, but I'd probably run it with DCC rules at this point. Just see how that,
dude, Giants are brutal.
I know, right? Yeah, but so are at that point. You figure they're what, 4th, 5th level characters or something like that. I mean,
yeah,
they'd be some hard targets. I don't know,
dude. I'm running. So I have my library group of kids, right? It's there's probably a core group of 5 kids that have transitioned to online. We were running in the public library. Every other week I'd show up and rando kids would show up, and I felt so heartbroken because like they advertised it as learn to play Dungeons and Dragons. I'm not running Dungeons and Dragons, right? And so they're all so I had these sweet, sweet, sweet kids showing up with like I don't know, like 5e stuff and spell cards and like and they're ready to go at it. And I'm like, oh man, I'm so sorry. Here's 4 zeros. I'm so sorry, man. And like I actually lost. Like we had one group that was clear that they knew 5e and they never came back. They were probably 5th and 6th grade and one of them like he died. He was like, I'm dead. I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry, man. I'll help you roll up another character right now. And anyways, point of that being, a crew has stuck with me and has learned DCC, and they are awesome. And we play now every Monday night, just because like there are these kids stuck with no entertainment, and they just ran into some giants. That was the thing, but it's you know, and so they just ran into some giants. The giants are gonna tear them apart. I don't want this. Like, I physically like, are you sure you want to do this? You know, you don't have to go there alone. You could go back and but there's these kids, and I try to bring myself back to when I was 12, 13, 14. They're so passionate about playing. They don't care if their character dies. They just want, if they could just play for another 45 minutes, even if they know they should have gone back to town. Like their characters are making decisions because the players want to keep on playing, even not because the character thinks it's a good idea to like poke the tiger's tail and you know and wake the giant up, and which is interesting. That only dawned on me today. I was like, oh, he's not like, why won't you make the right decision? I know you're a smart player. You've been through all this. Why won't you? And it's because he just wants to play. He just wants to keep playing. It doesn't, you know, he doesn't care. I mean, he cares if his PC lives or not, but it's secondary to the opportunity to keep playing. Anyways, long point of that story is my goal now is just to like ruin D&D for these guys for the rest of their lives. Like if I can pour all my passion into these Monday night games and like come up with like, you know, sweet set piece encounters. Like I want every D&D game they play after this, every role-playing game to be like a letdown. Like, oh man, well, that was awesome. But you should have seen what we played when I was in 6th grade with... They don't even need to remember my name. There's just some random chubby dude with a beard that they let into the library. And I want everything to be, you know, measured against that. Because they have total freedom, right? Like, I'm not going to tell these kids one thing what to do. Like, the world has consequences. They make their decisions accordingly. But, like, we're not going to, like, well, you have to do that, blah, blah, blah. So, like, you know, they're going to step into a railroad at some point and be like, this is nonsense. I kill the kindly old wizard, shave off his beard, don his robes, and pretend that I'm Elminster. Now what? Like, anyways. All right.
Haley said, wait, you went to the Ennies? Sure.
I know, right? She was there announcing the Ennies. She's like royalty. How did we manage to adopt the Sketches, man? Like, they're slumming with us.
Totally.
You know, it was, so we should tell, well, unless there's a question, we should tell the story about, so there I was at GaryCon, must have been like GaryCon 4 or 5 or 6 or something, but it was the first GaryCon for me, right? And I'm walking in hallowed land, like just like my mind boggled, like, right? Because you know you're walking past these icons that I've looked up to since I was 8 years old. Anyways, and I'm running a DCC game, and this dude shows up and he brings his kids, and I'm like, what? Like, sweet, this is cool, but like they were young. They were like, I don't know, like 9 and 7. Haley can tell us what she was, but they were young, and like their mom was sitting behind them. I'm like. And then like dad brought snacks. I'm like, oh dude, come on. I just want to roll some dice. I want to have some fun with some, like, the system's brand new. It's not published yet. We're just play testing. We have like Jeffrey Ince and Chicago Wiz at the table, like celebrities in my mind, right? Like I want to run a sweet game for them. And it just shows how wrong and arrogant Harley is on a regular basis, because so we're not 15 minutes into it, and it turns out it's Jim Sketch and Haley Sketch and Connor, and anyways, and so they're on this iceberg, and some sort of, you know, sea monster thing like tips the iceberg up. It's raising into the sky, and Jeffrey Anson's character is shooting down the iceberg. He grabs hold of Haley's boot, and the whole table. Can you imagine, like these guys? You know what? We're all like, back then, what, 40s, 50s. Like multiple centuries of gaming experience. They all turn to this. The only female at the table. She can't be, 8 years old, if that. Jim will correct me. And I'm like, all right, Haley, what do you do, right? Because like at this point, I'm in love with this family. These guys are awesome. They're just playing. They're like, this is like, I love these people. And she's like, he's holding onto her boot. He's flailing. The sea monster is about to eat him. The iceberg is tipping higher and higher. She's like, I kicked my boot off. Like, boom, and like, dude goes shooting down the iceberg. His character manages to live. But that was my first opportunity to play with the Sketch family, and I don't. Hopefully that was a positive experience for them. If not, they stuck it out and continued to play with us despite that. But
they keep coming back. I figured that.
I don't know. Such good people. And I feel like we have that story with like everybody we play with. I'm so bad with names, but like you think to all the Gen Con, and I know you have repeat players. Like you have like Stone Cold like groups that but for me, I just these people that I'll see maybe for a con or two, and it just means so much to me. There's this they'll just come through, and I'll see them at Gen Con, and maybe they'll move on to other games, which is totally fine. But the memories of getting to play with them, for those 3 hours at Gen Con 50 or whatever is just epic, because I don't know. It's still I'm still a nerd. Like, it's still creating memories. It's still just like being awesome. But yeah. More messages below. Okay, sweet. All right,
All right, I got one.
Okay.
Favorite. Judd K asks, favorite recent memory from your table.
Oh, that's totally fair. Hold on. Okay, give me 30 seconds. All right, so it's the kids again. So they're delving into these crypts, right? But again, I'm here to ruin RPGs for them henceforth, right? And so they're in these crypts, and it's not just cultists. Like, it has to be the cult of Orcus, right? Like, we're dropping Orcus art left and right. Like, this is what Orcus looks like, and he's gonna have the rod of Orcus when you meet him. And anyway, so they're delving in these catacombs, and they come across this spider, which I stole from Terry Olson. And so it's the spider thing that is leaving like silvery tendrils all around the chamber, and it's going to shoot lasers out of its eyes, essentially. So they walk in, and and the spider drops on one character, and he backs off. Anyways, once that's done, they discover a portal set below there, and the portal takes them to this prison plane of Orcus. Right? They escape, and just as I'm like, thank God, like, it's online, so it's Roll20, so I'm swapping between maps like a fool. They finally escape. We're back. Everyone's back in the same place. And I'm like, okay, Wizard, what are you doing next? He's like, I walked through the portal again. At the same time that my other player, the kid who's now in Arizona, is like, I smashed the mirror. And I was like, oh. So Teo's wizard, he walks back through the mirror. Nicholas smashes it. We have one wizard trapped in the demi-plane of Orcus, prison plane, whatever. The rest of the party here, and it was just like, it worked out by the end of the night. But it was brilliant and maddening and frustrating, and I love these kids. Like, they have no matter how many times their characters die, they have no fear of splitting the party, and I think it's just because they just want to play. Anyways, yeah.
Awesome. All right, I got here's a question that I want to hear the answer to. Well, all of them want to hear the answer to. But any plans for new adventures for Purple Planet? I love reading them. That's
Yes.
a virtual wizard.
Yes. So, we need like a timeline, right? It's like pre-COVID and post-COVID, except the acronyms are the same. So PV and PC. Anyways, it doesn't work. But pre-COVID, one of my assignments from Joseph was to turn in like not a story Bible, but like a content Bible for what we were going to do for the Peril on the Purple Planet reprint. So, which is like just like a dream job, right? It's like, hey, Harley, what do you want to include? We're gonna reprint all the original Purple Planet stuff. We're gonna include the adventures. What else do you want? What other content do you want to add? To make this what you want to release. And it's like, oh my god, it's not even a question. Like, time passes differently on the Purple Planet, right? So your players were there however long ago. It's a sequel to the actual Purple Planet adventure, which is crazy, right? Because it's like it just dawned on me, it's really just an adventure. It's not really like a setting. It's just an adventure with a whole lot of setting material. Anyhow, your players escape. Or your players escape. Your PCs escape. Forgive me. And something draws them back a year later in campaign time, but it's like 500 years later in Purple Planet time, right? And so the PCs come back, and now there's these massive, stone monoliths that have been erected that describes this, that looks like this idealized vision of who your warrior was a year ago, right? You guys have been worshipped for the last 500 years, and there's this whole, canonical, like whatever you did on the Purple Planet has now informed what the Kith believe in you. And so there's these rebel bands of Kith that are now following the PCs as ascended masters. But they're going to get wiped out, right? Like the real houses are going to come, they're going to crush them. They're going to crush them and their false gods, cast down these false idols, which are you, the PCs. And then so all of a sudden it falls to the player characters to rally this ragtag, group of heathen Kith, form some sort of fighting force out of them. Even as the real houses are riding down, bringing these armies of Kith just to come and annihilate your group. And can you survive, and can you become, the warlords of the Purple Planet? And so that's one big thing that I want to add. I want to write that adventure was on my list. Like, Joseph, I really want to do this. I want to include the Glossography of the Yoth. It's still lost out there somewhere, right? Like, we included like those randomized slip sheets in all the box sets. Somewhere, the distributor will remain unnamed. There's a crate of Purple Planet boxes that has the missing pieces of the Glossography, and so to reassemble those and to have the completed Glossography of the Yoth, either as a separate book or some sort of insert, but just to have those all collected in one place. That'd be cool to include. And then Terry Olson sent me a couple of adventure ideas that he wanted to use. And then Joseph's working with a couple new writers. He's like, these guys write brilliant stuff. Use them. Like, you have to be very specific. You have to be very focused. Like, make sure that that the tone is right. That it really matches the Purple Planet. But he's like, let's use these guys and get some fresh blood going in the adventures. So yeah.
Well, I love Purple Planet, and I sort of like begged my way into a connection with Neon Knights, and I will forever be grateful for you letting me.
Oh, whatever, dude. Your writing is no.
Oh, absolutely. All right. Let's see. I got one here. Hey Harley, this is from Tim the Wicked. Hey Harley, big fan of your work. I'm interested in the specifics of your writing process. Yeah. Do you start with a single idea or brainstorm a lot before you begin? Do you write multiple module outlines? Are you a quick or slow writer? Cheers.
Thank you for the question. First, let's start with the easy one. Everyone here, raise your hand if you know Harley's slow. I'm a painfully slow writer. I miss all my deadlines. I start. This kind of goes back to my old Toys R Us story, right? So 4th grade, you walk into Toys R Us, you see the rack of TSR modules along the side, and I this is what the internet has ruined for me. I thought they were infinite. I thought that there were 500 TSR modules, that D&D modules that I would never discover. They couldn't all possibly be here, but now you go to the Aseum and, well, yeah, actually they all are all here. 5 reprints of this, and you know them all, Harley. But in my mind's eye, like I want to write the TSR adventure that Harley at in 4th grade saw up on that wall but couldn't afford at the time because he only had $5 to spend. So what it starts with is, and my process is let's not say this is a good process. It's a slow process. It's painful. I start off with an idea that I think is cool, and then and then I try to and I build upon it. And so I'm actually that's a useless answer, but I'm going to give you an example that hopefully illustrates it a little bit. So for DCC 100, right? The Music of the Spheres is chaos. What was really fascinating about that to me was this idea that raw chaos that's trying to unmake the physical universe, is just like howling at the gates of reality, trying to get in, right? But it can't. It can't affect reality because it has no physical form. Like I think there's, my forgive my weak theology, but there's this idea, perhaps in Zoroastrianism, right, where in order to defeat evil, Ahura Mazda had to create time, and then once time existed, he's like, okay, now it's ding, round 1, go, evil, suck it. But before that, before time existed, he couldn't interact with it. Similarly, because chaos exists outside of anything, so time has order, material reality has order. Like, okay, so chaos exists outside of the world. There's these cultists that just refuse to bend their knees to any god, to any king, to any religion, and so in Aerith or wherever the game's taking place, their goal is to unseat the gods themselves, however possible that might be, and they're going to do this by they're going to create this vast. They're going to hollow out the inside of a mountain, create this vast alembic, which is like an alchemical term where they're going to boil down the various elements to make a physical form that is utterly soulless, right? It's devoid of soul because they can make the flesh, they can make the bones, they can make it move, but it doesn't intentionally. They're going to leave out the soul, so then they shoot this this fishing rod out into the cosmos, beyond time, beyond space. And just this dribble of chaos, just this scintillating green, because just green is cool, just dribbles into this fleshy form, and where there was no soul, now there's an animating force, raw chaos that the cultists were hoping to turn against the gods and free themselves. Of course, it goes awry, but now since time immemorial, this alembic has continued to work inside this mountain, with earth turning on fire and water and chaos feeding it from above, below, from the sides, and so that's manifesting into this monster in the heart of this adventure. Okay, boom, and so that was the idea. That's like, oh my god, I want to write this. Okay, so what's that going to look like? Who are these cultists? And why do the players care, or why do the PCs care? And so it starts with an idea, with something I think looks cool in my head, and a concept that sounds cool to me, and then I'm going to try to layer stuff on so that by the time I'm said and done. So in Music of the Spheres, we can use handout. Hey. All right, if you look over. They're not looking at you, Brendan. I love you. They're looking at. I gave him Doug's map again. If you look at A4 fire on the kind of mid left side, and anyway, so you can see that there's kind of a triangular area there, right? And so that was my chance to write in, and so there's this massive, I can't pronounce it right, genie thing, right? But it's from the DMG. It's from the cover of the Dungeon Master's Guide. Who hasn't wanted to write that adventure? So there's this towering genie, or Ifrit. That's what it is. It's an Ifrit. Standing there, and he's overseeing the elemental channel of flame. And so fire is just gouting out of this thing, and you can't see it on this map because it needs to be rotated. But it's pouring into that center area. Anyhow, and so I was taking that original idea, the Alembic, and it's like, okay, cool. What's the sweetest flame thing I can think of? Oh my God, it's the DMG, AD&D DMG, where the guy, from the City of Brass is on the cover. I want to write, an adventure that uses that guy. And so I layer that on, and I for the water, the queen from the elemental plane of water, I layer something on that. And so I take an idea that I like, and this is why I'm so slow. I take an idea that I like, and I layer one idea on, and then another idea, and this one fits in here, and this one fits in here, and like this, and which is cool, but it's a very indirect way of writing, and it takes forever. I've blessed Joseph Goodman with very few exceptions. I've missed every deadline I've had. But one of the cool things about DCC 100 is that for various reasons it's always been pushed back. So I've had the time to just like cook this thing. It's been through. Jen Brinkman edited it, and then we cooked it some more, and then we sent it off to Mark Bruner, who edited it, and and then we kicked it back to me, and it's even more edits. And so, this is my very first adventure, Legacy of the Savage Kings. I had all the time in the world to write because I didn't owe it to anybody. And then DCC 100, I've had all the time in the world to write, just by virtue of things getting pushed back and schedule changes. And so it's that plus Doug's artwork. I literally can't wait to see it. And it's cool, right? Because Joseph's going to be forced to like up his game somehow. Because like, how the hell is he going to print this thing? He was talking about on the What's New with Goodman Games. He's like, it's going to be like a board game manufacturing. Like, I don't know what the hell that's going to look like. And so it's asking every member of this crew to like step up and create something new and like really just be neat and be like, it's not something we've done before. It's not staid. It's not, it's not, oh, well, here's another, 32-page adventure module. No, it's who knows what the hell it's going to be made out of. Maybe it'll be assembled by Boy Scouts before it's all said and done. Who knows? Like, I don't know, but to have the freedom to like have an idea, dream it up, have it worked on in a way that it manifests even cooler than you had hoped for in the past, and then have Joseph step in and manufacture in a way that's going to be rad. Like, I just can't wait. Okay, all right, sorry about that, guys.
No, that was awesome. That was super cool. All right, I got another one I'm interested in too. Harley, what RPGs do you play outside of DCC?
Oh, dude, I'm such a sucker for it's retro cyberpunk now at this point. But Altair-Sorian cyberpunk. If you guys remember, like, must have been like 1990 or something. They sold 3 tiny books, like 32 pages each, maybe. But the box itself was like 3 inches deep for no good reason. And I have to ask Mike Pond. I mean, it must have been like cost, right? But anyways, I fell in love with, right about the same time I was falling out of love with Dungeons and Dragons. It had gone to 2nd edition, and there was a bajillion like complete guide to warriors, and I was like, all right, this is sweet. And we got to like complete guide to like half orcs. I was like, ugh, you people, like, I'm over this. Right about then, a friend in a creative writing class in 7th grade handed off Cyberpunk to me, and the way that it was written, and the artwork, and just it's just another one of those things that hit me at the exact right time. In 7th grade, trying to figure out, who I want to be when I grow up, what is this all going to mean? And then you get handed something like this, where it's like, you can handle this, you're a cyberpunk. And I just like, it was like being 8 again. I just inhaled Altair-Sorian cyberpunk and played it incessantly through college. And then, so Cyberpunk 2013, I still run Cyberpunk 2020 with some rules variants at some of the Colorado cons, just for fun. There's this crew that I go to, and they're brilliant. They're absolutely brilliant. And then when I was doing my master's, I played a lot of, it was a hack, but it was Legend of the Five Rings, but I only allowed Bushi, so there was no spell casting. It was more like I was going through my Kurosawa phase, right? Like, well, everyone's got to have a sword. It's going to be bloody, and you can't walk across a single bridge without a dude with the, the wide hat. Like you can't see his face, and there's going to be a fight on every bridge you cross. So L5R, but mostly nowadays, mostly Cyberpunk and DCC. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, that hour just flew by. And we're down an hour. Any last words?
You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for showing up. I'm sorry I rambled. We could have answered twice as many questions. You know what, Brandon? Here, it's late where you're at. Why don't you sign off? I'll hang out with some folks and I'll try to answer a couple more questions as we go. Oh, it's early where I'm at.
Bless you. All right, yeah, hang out, man. And if you want, I'll stick around if you want. Or
sweet. Here, let's do this. Let's do speed round. You pick out 5 more questions. Harley will give an answer that doesn't take 5 minutes. Go.
Ready? And okay. No, that's it. Same thing.
Sailors 2. Yes.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes. The Gen Con tournament for 2020 is it's nearly completed right now. It's an awesome team of Terry and Mark and some brilliant writers. Mike Boland, perhaps Tim DeShane. Who knows? Maybe even Thorin. And it's so the PCs are returning to the keep on Sailors, and what has transpired since then, all this evil and chaos has been cooked inside the ruins of the keep, and you have to fight it a second time. All right, next. That was 1. 2.
Who would win in a nunchuck fight, Harley or Brendan?
Brendan, because he has no fear. Really quickly, have you looked at that video at all? Like Matt's edits, Big Bald Matt, they're so brilliant. We need to link to that later. But like when you're spinning and it bounces off your arm and it kind of like hangs there in the air and you give it like the side eye, like, oh my god, he did so well. And if you listen to the words, it's timed brilliantly. Like Big Bald Matt is like just absolutely brilliant. Okay, that was 2. Was that 2?
Right. 3. What Appendix N franchise would you like to work on next?
Oh my god. Okay, how do we get Robert E. Howard? I mean, we'll never be able to. I mean, you can't. Like, there's a line 20 people deep, but but there's something to be said. Like you don't want to meet your idols, right? You don't want to see Goodman Games screw up Conan, right? Like, God bless Mike for getting Lakemar so good. There would have been a time when, like, I remember sitting with Joseph in the outside. We couldn't get hotel rooms close to the city center, but it was Indianapolis. He sat down with like 5 of us. He's like, "Okay, guys, top secret. We have the Lakemar license," and like my brain lit up. It's like, "Oh my god, this is D&D plus Cyberpunk. Like, this is exactly what I want to write." But it wasn't what I wanted to write, because it was Harley's half informed vision of what Lakemar is Punjar, and while it's the serial numbers shaved off, it's also not true to what Lakemar is. And then enter Mike Curtis. Bless that man. You should see the spreadsheets of research he created, and without him, we would have. We don't need to talk down any other. But like, I am so proud of the work that he did and be able to contribute an iota of my interest in urban noir, swords and sorcery. But it would not have existed. It would not have been good. It would not have been brilliant without Michael Curtis. Anyways, so if Michael Curtis will go to Texas along with Mark Bruner, who's already in Texas, and the two of them will go to the Howard Library and do all the research, then we should get Conan. Otherwise, do not give it to any of us.
Okay, number 4. Harley, you've mentioned college a couple times. Where did you go? What did you study? And how has that influenced your game creation?
Oh, okay. So I went to Colorado State University for my bachelor's. I took about 5 years to get through because I was mudding way too much and playing Cyberpunk. I graduated with a degree in English creative writing, but I also did a lot of religious studies classes. Then I went to CU Boulder, and studied English there as well. All of which was just really just like I was just like forced all in reality. I was about to leave for a doctorate program before I fell in love with a girl who's now my wife. But it was like because I didn't have a plan, man. Like I can wash dishes. I can sort of hang drywall if I don't screw it up. But like I can work labor crew, but I have no marketable skills. I'm not good at anything. I've been reading Dungeons and Dragons since I was 8, and what you take in is what you create, and I am just fortunate enough to have been in a place in a time where all I took in was also what Joseph was looking for, because otherwise I would just be I don't know. I've been afforded an incredible opportunity, and mostly thank you to the people that are paying attention. But like this is not because Harley's special. This is just because, I happen to be, I don't know. I just happen to be there, and because I was handed off D&D when I was 8. All right, 2 more.
2 more. Okay, number 1 from Varya Yana. Are you running anything at KoboldCon Colorado Springs virtual this year?
Oh, I am ignorant of KoboldCon. I will make a note actually. The virtual. I'm impressed, man. Like the possibilities and the joy and enthusiasm that I've got to experience over Cyclops Con has been kind of eye-opening for me. I need to do it in a place where I have decent internet, which is not at home, so I would need to come in here. Gaming with people that we had a guy from this awesome player Mihalo from Serbia in our Cyclops Con game. He's getting up at 5 a.m. He's pouring himself a cup of coffee. Meanwhile, the rest of us are like dragging ourselves, like trying to stay awake. There's some. Well, we weren't trying to stay awake, but I didn't anticipate just how cool this could potentially be. I love as shy as I am, as much as I dread the start of every single con game with just an icy core of my heart. Like, Brendan, you've been with me, like, about 2 hours before any game, like, we'll be working the booth. Where'd Harley go? He just evaporated. Well, that's ridiculous. He doesn't have a game for another hour and a half. And that I'm in my room at the hotel, just kind of like flipping over pages, like touching dice, like, do I have all the pre-gens, and just trying to calm myself down to a point where I can like be social in front of people and not be a complete useless dork. But no. But the point being, so that was a long. All right, that was not a short answer. Point being, virtual cons bring out all that same like anxiety and excitement for me, and I had a ton of fun running for Cyclops Con, and I wouldn't have told you that would be the case. And so KoboldCon, sweet, Colorado Springs, represent. Let's. I need to check that out and run some games.
Yeah, man, do it up. All right, last one, and here, maybe the best question of the night. Harley, best story of getting kicked out of a place for skateboarding.
Ah! Who asked that question?
M. Bolam.
Oh, shit.
What's up, M? How you feeling?
Ooh. Oh, man. Okay. This is actually. Oh, this is a sweet story. I hope he's still around. Okay. So there we are. We're dorks, right? Like, we're fighting the system. Meanwhile, we're all attending a state college, which is the system. But there was like a posse. We had like 8 of us, and none of us were amazing skaters, but we skated enough that we were competent. Like we were past 0 level. We weren't 5th level. We were never going to get to be 5th level, but we were solid 1st, maybe 2nd level skaters at the height of it. And so there's 8 of us, and we were agnostic. We were wheel agnostic, right? So we have a couple bladers with us. We have some kid from Michigan who's been punk rock since forever. Anyways, cops roll up. But we're like, there's so many of us, and we have done this so many times, we're like ants, right? So we just like burst out in every single fucking direction because we have practiced this. Like, I'm going to go that way, he's going to go that way, Kale's going that way, Rob's, skating down the handicap ramp. And we were all fleeing, like we had code names for where we'd flee to, and so we just explode like if you threw a glass at the ground and every shard was a different skater exploding out in different directions, and the cops were like, "Fuck, what are we supposed to do? Who do we arrest?" And then so we're blazing across campus, and because we had shouted the code word, we knew exactly where we were going to go. We blaze across campus. We get to the guy's house that's off campus, and we had this myth in our head that the campus police could only arrest you while you were on the property, which I don't think is true, but we had that worked up in our head really well. And so we're on the porch. It's night. We're cracking open a Pepsi. Breathing heavy. Like everybody made it out, right? Like all 8 of us are there. And sure enough, the cop car rolls up and somehow he found us back. I don't know how he found us, but he flashed his lights and we waved and he went on his way, and we tried to be, we were always very respectful once we got caught. But up until the point we got caught, like once we got caught, it was yes sir, no sir. We didn't do like, what's your name? Oh, my name's Tony Hawk, officer. No, it's like, all right, you got me. But up until they caught us, yeah. And then, what was the other? Anyways, all right. So I could dwell on skate stories far too long. But it's great. Like now I have this posse of like of dads, as bears as it says, and so like my gamers are all like 6th and 7th grade. This kids I skate with are all like the same age, and I don't know. It's a cool time to be alive. Yeah. Anyways.
That was 5. You want to do any? You want to do one last one? Bonus question.
Hit me.
Bonus question from Mr. Grinvald. Harley, quick DCC question for your rapid fire segment: wizard or elf?
Oh, elves. Okay. I'd be the first guy. I'd be the first guy to say, no elves. But elves in DCC are kind of cool, right? Because they start committed to like they're not elves so much, almost as like Cambions. Like they really are like out of the Elric vein of every elf caster that shows up is already committed himself with some unholy alliance. That's kind of cool. Although if I had to play one class for the remainder of my life, it would be a wizard. Yeah. No. Warrior. I meant to say warrior. If I had to play one DCC class, the rest of my life, it would be a warrior. Like the creativity permitted by Mighty Deeds is just like so much fun, and it'll be cool to see how this manifests in X-Crawl. But it's just a hoot because like, yeah, I love my imagination of warriors swinging off chandeliers and shoving demons through portals and yeah, warriors for the win. I love warriors. All right. Woo. Thank you guys so much for hanging out tonight. I really appreciate it. Thank you for dealing with my rambling, and yeah, thank you guys so much for showing up.
Been great.
All right.
Thank you all, guys.
All right, be safe. Go fall down on concrete. Love you, Gibbet. Yeah. Kangarat Murder Society for the win.